This is Eagle Owl, and today I will be talking about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, quote unquote beef. But let's get straight into it.
They've been around been around it for a good minute now, and got great experience in it, and calling plays and coaching quarterbacks, and I'm just, I'm just there. I'm just there listening and taking in that knowledge. I've known Doug for a very long time. Because he wanted me to come to Florida coming out of high school, kind of like Brian. So kind of similar there.
Take two more questions. What have you noticed about, Nick being open-minded to change up the offense like he has? I mean, what does that say about him?
I mean, it's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to it.
Well, what have you seen? What have you seen from him as far as doing that?
I think he's just, he's been great, and the messages he's delivering to the team. He's trying to be very intentional in what he's saying, and yeah.
Last one. A couple years ago, you talked about your relationship with Jonathan Gannon and your guys back and forth.
All right, so before we get straight into it, must give a disclaimer. This is just a opinion by a fan and what I observe, what I've seen and how this thing between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni possibly started. It could be nothing, but it could be something. And I wouldn't be doing my due diligence for y'all if I didn't talk about it. I really didn't, because it seemed like more of a quote unquote rumor report and not an Eagles report. But it's about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. And I think this thing started all over Brian Johnson. But let's take it back, man, with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Right? I felt like the first year they were together, it was his first year as a head coach, his first year as starting. We was expected to win 4 games, expected not to go anywhere. And they overachieve. You win 9 games. Your wide receivers are rookie Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, Jalen Reagor. And, you really had nothing going. You really had no motion going with that core. And all we kept saying, like, yeah, we got blown out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs. But this team, if they can just add a weapon, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, and this team can be really good if they can just add a wide receiver. Just get that wide receiver. And Howie Roseman did it for Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. Got them a wide receiver. 1K always open, right? AKA AJ Brown. And it seemed like the duo between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, they was on the same page at the time. You could actually even go back to year 1, whereas though Nick Sirianni was off with his play calling and he gave it up to Shane Steichen. And then Shane Steichen, you can say, took us to the next level, or Nick Sirianni. But Nick Sirianni was cool with that at the time. So year 2, your team is built. You signing guys. You get CJ Gardner-Johnson. You got AJ Brown. TJ Edwards just have a breakout year. Like, everything was flowing and everything was good. You're winning games. You eventually even get to the Super Bowl and you almost win that game. But this is where I think the tides had turned. Okay. This is where the tides had turned, and it's just a small clip. And we all know this clip. It was when it was like 14-14, and then I guess the rest was checking the chains or whatever. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni was next to each other, and Nick Sirianni was taunting one of the players on the Chiefs. Jalen Hurts looked at him, put his hand down, and Jalen Hurts looked very serious, extremely serious. And I think that's where it turned from there. I don't think Jalen Hurts at that moment ever looked at Nick Sirianni the same. And what does this have to do with Brian Johnson, right? I'm just giving a breakdown of what could have happened. As you know, you go to the Super Bowl, you start losing your coaching staff. Shane Steichen goes to the Colts. Jonathan Gannon goes to the Arizona Cardinals. You know, you basically just got Nick Sirianni, and that's really it. And you about to basically bring in a whole new coaching staff, quote unquote. But you didn't. But you did. You kept Brian Johnson. You bring in a whole new defensive staff, though. But you wanted Vic Fangio. But we're not going to get into the Vic Fangio, why he ain't come. But this is about Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, and Brian Johnson. So basically, you promoted everybody within house. So you think everything is just going to flow good. And then you go into the following year. Yo, you're winning games again. You barely winning them. We seeing the struggles on offense. We seen we couldn't get a fast start. We eventually come back on teams and win. And it eventually got too bad for us. You know, we lose that game against San Francisco. We're like, okay, we still control our destiny. We could still be the first seed. And then you lose again. You lose to who? The Cowboys. And this is where another thing happened when you lose to the Cowboys, right? So now the media, the fans, everybody's hopping on Brian Johnson because you couldn't really get on him while winning. But now we're losing, and we're losing bad. And reporters start asking, yo, you made changes, and this is where Sean Desai basically got demoted, and they brought up Matt Patricia. And people start asking questions like, yeah, you should possibly make that change on offense. And this is what Nick Sirianni had to say about that. Nick Sirianni, make no mistakes about it. This offense is being run the exact same way it was last year. That was the Super Bowl year, and the year before that. This is my offense. It's my offense. The criticism unfairly goes to Brian, and he calls the plays, but the criticism should go to me. This is my offense. Everybody is looking at Nick Sirianni like, okay, this is your offense. You got these explosive guys. What are you doing? What are you doing exactly? Like, you're barely running the ball. There's no motion. There's nothing going on. Nothing at all. And what I believe what was going on, in my personal opinion, it was Nick Sirianni offense. But again, you hired Brian Johnson to run the offense. Why couldn't you do with Brian Johnson what you did with Shane Steichen? And that's what I believe Jalen Hurts is thinking. I believe he's thinking that. And towards the end of the season, in a collapse, they had these exit interviews with the media. And Jalen Hurts was asked about Nick Sirianni's position. And this is what he had to say.
I didn't know he was going anywhere.
Well, it was obviously a lot of questions about whether.
I didn't know that. Nah.
Where's your confidence level in him then to fix this?
I have everybody. I have a ton of confidence in everyone in this building. It's just a matter of us going out there and playing clean football, and that's been something that we have not done, you know. And so.
He's like, oh, I didn't know he was going anywhere. Not like, oh, I'm backing my coach. He will be here. Oh, I just didn't know he was going anywhere. Kind of plain, kind of like, I don't care about it if he's going anywhere or whatever. And everybody took that and ran with it. Like, yo, why is Jalen Hurts throwing Nick Sirianni under the bus like this? Why is this happening? You know, why did he back his coach, this and that? I don't know. But Jalen Hurts, as they clean the lockers, preparing for next season, Jalen Hurts had another exit interview. And this is what he had to say about the Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson thing.
Some players play. I answered that question the other day, and I don't know if you asked me something the other day about, and I said, what did I say?
So you didn't know? Yeah. Like you didn't know.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was a thing. So I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. You know, we plan on fixing everything that we've done and growing together. Coach Sirianni, Brian, everyone.
Again, don't you see like a common thing? He's bringing up Brian. He's bringing up Nick Sirianni, like, okay, whatever. But it seemed like, you know, he really wanted Brian to stay. And Nick Sirianni gone, in my opinion. But you couldn't do that because Nick Sirianni still won 11 games. I think Jalen Hurts advocated for Nick Sirianni to go. Again, Brian Johnson is just not some regular dude. This is a dude that he knew since he was a kid. And the one time Brian Johnson get his shot, Nick Sirianni overruled him with everything. Every single thing. Now, this is something that goes unnoticed, right? So Marcus Mariota signs with the Commanders. Now, why am I bringing up Marcus Mariota? Because Brian Johnson signed with the Commanders. And they asked Marcus Mariota about Brian Johnson. And this is what Marcus Mariota had to say. I think very highly of Brian. And I think everything that happened over the course of the last season, how he handled it as a testament to his character. Mariota said, and I want to surround myself with good people. I think ultimately in the end, you'll find ways to win games. But when you got a lot of good people in the building, and it seems like that's kind of going on here, and I just want to be appreciated, blah, 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 blah. So he started talking about the Commanders right there. But that first sentence, I think very highly of Brian. And then that second sentence, and I think everything that happened over the course of last season, how he handled it, is a testament to his character. So what exactly was Brian Johnson going through with Nick Sirianni? What was he going through? Was Nick Sirianni overruling every single thing? Everything? I think that's a possibility. I think that's a possibility, man. And again, Nick Sirianni is the common thing, even with that. Like, okay, Brian Johnson being overruled with everything. What is going on? Brian Johnson is a good person. He had to endure a lot, and it was a testament to his character. What do that mean? Right? And then, rewind it just a little bit. Brian Johnson was eventually fired. But remember, reports came out about his firing, and Jeremy Fowler put out like, yo, some of the players in the locker room don't feel good about this. They don't like that Brian Johnson was fired. And remember the clip I played, Jalen Hurts was like, yo, we could fix this thing. Nick, Brian, and he really wanted to fix it with Brian Johnson, I believe. But he was let go, and it is what it is. Then eventually we signed Kellen Moore. And the thing with the Kellen Moore signing and Nick Sirianni, everybody, even including me, the content creators and all, we was all saying, well, yeah, it's going to be a collaboratory effort between Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni. And they're going to put the playbook together. Even Nick Sirianni was validating this, like, we're going to come up with the game plan, this and that. And then Jalen Hurts eventually talked to the media during OTAs. And remember the infamous, it's 95% new. And Jalen Hurts purposely put that out there. I believe he purposely put that out there. And I believe he advocated for that. And I believe he went up to Lori and Howie Roseman. And I'm telling y'all, I'm saying I believe. I'm not sure if this is true or not. I believe he was like, yo, if Nick Sirianni stick around and we sign the offensive coordinator, I want things to run through that offensive coordinator because it was successful the first time. Remember with Shane Steichen, when I brought that up? We went to the Super Bowl and won games. So I believe that was the case. And again, Jalen Hurts, I think possibly did that on purpose. I'm keeping it a buck with y'all. I think he did that on purpose. And Nick Sirianni had to walk back, everything he said about the collaboratory thing and just say, yeah, I'm going to focus on the details, this and that. And to sum this thing up, man, how is this going to work? I really don't know. It worked year two, whereas though we went to the Super Bowl and, Jalen Hurts didn't really have to deal with Nick Sirianni as much. So it worked, and it can work again. But the thing is, he's not going into year two with Kellen Moore. He's going into year one. So there might be growing pains. But to sum up the video, I think this all started over Brian Johnson. I believe he thought the guy that he knew since a kid was unfairly treated. Marcus Mariota, like he said, testament to his character, unfairly treated. And Nate Sirianni got to stick around, and Brian Johnson did not. And I believe Jalen Hurts took that personally. I think he took that personally. I'm just giving my perspective. He's been debunking everything Nate Sirianni's been saying. I think they started over Brian Johnson. But hey, man, what do you think and how do you feel, man? Is Eagle Eye reaching on this one? I could be. But I bring up the facts and the public statements. And yeah, we'll see how this works. But this is Eagle Eye, man. I'm up.